People say, oh, I died for my kids. Well, great. Would you go to the gym and eat healthy for your kids? If you're willing to die, would you be willing to do those things? I see so many people out of shape because they're so focused on building their business. If you were to pass away, your wife and kids are not going to hug their money. They're going to want to hug you. So again, what's your measuring stick of success? Like, where's your vertical alignment? God, family, business. Most people it's business, family, God.
Like, I'm freaking 28 and I'm teaching people who are 50 like how to operate with money. You know what I mean? This is just insane.
That's huge, and it just speaks to your hunger and shifting this area of your life. You came from an environment, and then our environment's so powerful, right? We always hear you're the average of the 5 people you spend time with, right? But it's like our family and our friends and our culture even, it's a challenge. And so when you're stuck in like a broke or poverty or a lack or scarcity mindset, how do you get out of it? The way you shift that is by reading books, listening to podcasts like this, hiring coaches and mentors. It's getting around different communities online. Nowadays, it's so simple, but always saturating your mind on a daily basis. And I always like to say, if you feed your brain more than you feed your body, your life will go in an entirely different direction. I am a great producer of income, right? We just had a $50,000 month last month. I don't say that to impress you guys, but to say that impresses me because I went from barely making $2,000 a month to having, months like that. Now, is every month like that? Absolutely not. That is not entrepreneurship. In fact, entrepreneurship is, you make 50 grand in a month, you don't make anything next month, you make 10 the next month. And so, but to see my evolution, to shift, and it started with my belief system that I am a great producer. I know I'm a great manager or steward of my money. But then over the last 5 to 10 years, I've been learning how to multiply money. And that's ultimately the goal, is where you don't work for money anymore. You have your money work to create more money for you. And those are 2 separate, vehicles, but they come with 2 different mindsets. And so everything starts in the mind first. So when you shift that belief system, you start to shift the external because you shifted the internal first.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwashed To Be Broke series. Today's guest is a true high-performance powerhouse with a master's in performance psychology, nearly a decade working alongside Tony Robbins, and over 40,000 coaching calls under his belt. He's the CEO of Master Life by Design, a real estate investor, best-selling author, and someone who lives what he teaches, helping entrepreneurs unlock their potential and design a life they're actually excited to live. Super excited to have him here. Welcome to the show, Joe Moffett. Hopefully I pronounced it right.
Yes, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for being here. It's my pleasure to have you here. Super excited for this conversation. I have a bunch of questions prepared for you, but before I start asking any of those, I would love to hear, and for sure, all the listeners would love to hear, how do you get into entrepreneurship, and what is your story behind that?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one, maybe an uncommon one for most. So, growing up, I watched both my parents, who were divorced since the time I was 1, but they both were basically blue collar workers, and I witnessed us living middle class, lower middle class at times. And I just remember I made this like internal vow. I never want to live my whole life like this. I want to be different when I grow up. And so there were struggles at times where my mom didn't have food in the house. And I remember one time my grandfather came over and he's like, "You guys don't have any food." And he's like, "Let's go buy you some food." And we had some hard times. I lived in cockroach infested apartments where I'd pull my bed sheet backs and cockroaches were there, poured it in my cereal and they were in there. There were some bad times, but so I made that kind of like inner vow. And then when it was time to kind of graduate high school, I joined the United States Marine Corps. I left 9 days after graduating high school, traveled the world, lived in Japan for 2 years, went over to Iraq. After I got orders to San Diego, I went to Iraq for 9 months. And when I came out, I was at this defining moment. Do I stay in with the career and the pension and the security, or do I try my chances on the outside? And ultimately, I decided to move on. I got involved in network marketing. If any of you know Amway out there, started that journey, and I thought that was my path to become rich and famous. But what it actually did for me was it birthed me into personal development. I didn't have, growing up, I never heard I was never told to read books like The Magic of Thinking Big or Rich Dad Poor Dad or Think and Grow Rich. I never had that. And so I just started really inhaling this content. And then I learned that mentorship, coaching was so important to people's success. And so those things were deposited into me then. And I just ran with it. And I learned that if I can help other people have success, that will help me have success. But after doing that for 5 years, I found that I didn't achieve the level of financial freedom I wanted. I wasn't, I grew as a person, but I knew there was more. And I knew there was a change that needed to take place. And as a result, I was actually in business with Tony Robbins' son, Jarek. And I was at his birthday party in San Diego, met a friend of his. I said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "Oh, I work for Tony Robbins. I coach for Tony." And I said, "No way, that's what I want to do. I want to help people on a more professional level." And at that time, I was getting ready to step into my master's program for performance psychology. So everything was kind of aligning there. And ultimately, I got in contact with the director of coaching. He said, "Hey," even though they lived in San Diego, headquarters was 5 minutes from my house. He said, "Hey, if you want to really get to know me and connect with me, we're doing an event in New Jersey." So I had to fly all the way across country to meet him. We hit it off, got invited to the team, got invited to the training, finished top of my class, and I was working as a peak performance coach for about 7, 8 years at Tony Robbins. In the meantime, I started coaching for other companies and other masterminds, and I just started falling into watching people become financially free, watching people have great success, coaching them through high levels of success. And I realized that even though I was an employee at Tony Robbins, I needed to do something or go on my own. So around 2020, my wife and I, she was also a coach there too, we left and we started our own business, Master Life by Design. We started coaching people, helping people, and then ultimately started going into real estate investors and business owners. And what we found was we would help them create and scale, make all this money and become financially free. And the light bulb went off saying, if they're investing, maybe we should start investing.
Mhm.
And so we started our investment journey, and that's helped us become ourselves and our family financially free. And for those of you that are wondering, does that mean you're making millions? No. My definition of financial freedom is you have $1 more in passive income than you do in bills, and you become financially free. And then you can build from there and create more. So, my journey around entrepreneurship has been a little bit unique, tied to security, but making the jump. And I have one quote that really helped me, and then I'll end with this. One quote that helped me break free from the security of like a 9 to 5 or a company that we're partnered with, and that's this. It says, "A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because its trust is not in the branch, but in its own wings."
Mm.
And I had to learn to trust in my ability, for me, partnered with God, but trust in my ability to be able to create the success I want. And I didn't do that irrationally. I didn't just quit cold turkey. In fact, studies show that if you, the people who quit cold turkey and jump into entrepreneurship versus people who stay at their 9 to 5 and start building their side project or side hustle to a point where it starts to grow and overtake their income, the people who build it while working their 9 to 5 are statistically proven to have more success than those that jump cold turkey. So that's really helped me and made an impact for me.
So awesome. I love the journey and how everything like went for you, who you become along the way. This is so powerful. Um, what actually the quote mean really for you? Like, I mean, what financial freedom in when it comes to like values and what with the financial freedom you can do, what does it mean to you, actually?
Yeah, I always say financial freedom is not the end goal, it's
Mhm.
actually the starting point.
Mm,
Because in Western culture, unfortunately, everything's ruled by money, right? Like you want to go out, you want to go on trips, you want to have nice things, it costs money. My thing is let's help get money out of the way.
mhm,
Because once money's gone, then we can focus on all the important stuff, like making an impact on other people's lives, spending time with your wife and kids or your husband and kids, or meeting the love of your life and making an impact on your community. There's so much. Money is just a vehicle. It's just a means to an end. And so so many people think it's the end goal and it's not. And it's like if you ever Jim Carrey, I think, said it best. He said, "I hope that you achieve everything you want, have all the success you want in your life so that you realize that it's not actually important." I'm paraphrasing there. But it's like, yeah, you make all this money and that's great, but then you realize it's empty, it's bottomless, it's not really fulfilling. And so it's when you can start pouring in other people. And I was just talking with one of my personal clients that I coach, and They were talking about how, right, like when they help people and they bless people, like that's truly their definition of success is when you can be able to give more to people than you actually take is what I think is success. And so I just want to be in a position where I can be a giver, making an impact on someone else's life, where it's not all about mine, but there's an element you have to create finances. And so get that out of the way so you can help other people.
Yeah, yeah. This is so good. I love it so much. For me, money is a tool that I can build more, be more, doing more, helping more people and so on. So it's like an amplifier for me. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but okay, let's jump a little bit back into the
Okay.
beginning of the whole journey. What, when you've been growing up, what actually success mean in your world?
When I was younger, honestly, it was all vanity. It was all pride, all ego. Like I wanted a ton of money. I wanted to, when I was younger, I was 23 when I got out of Marine Corps. So it was like I wanted to be wealthy so I could be significant, so I could have all the toys, show off. Back then when I was single, I'd like to go out and have, go to the club and do bottle service and stuff like that. Like I thought, and have all the girls come to me, and like that's what my vision was of success. But when you get around mature mentors and you start to learn more in depth of like what life's really about, that stuff kind of fades to the wayside and you start to shift the way you think. And so the shift of thinking was, what could I get to now it's what can I give?
Mm-hmm.
Because success is measured in how much you can give. So many times, I think people, if there any of you are listening to this, the challenge that we often have in Western culture is that your measuring stick of success is about how much money you have,
Mm-hmm.
versus what if it was about how well you loved?
Mm-hmm.
What if it was about how much you contributed to others, right? Like for you, Adam, it's like you creating this podcast is helping other people, right? Like I would call you successful for helping other people in that. It doesn't, regardless of what's in your bank account, $1 billion or a penny, it doesn't matter. Um, but to me, when we make that shift from myself and what can I get to what can I give, I think that's the biggest shift around that took place for me because I used to have goals on what I could achieve, which I still kind of do, but my bigger hierarchy is I have giving goals and how much can we give financially, time, like even today, like we're going over to help our friends, do some work over their house. So it saves them money, makes an impact on them, quality time with them. We're not asking for anything, right? It's just we want to give. And so if you have to work constantly for your money and you're still broke, it's like you don't have time to give. You don't have your energy to give or even resources to give. So I think that's probably the biggest shift for me.
Yeah. So when you mentioned, um, you wanted to be significant, when you were a kid, like, why do you think? Because I would say most of the people want these type of things. Like, why do you think people really? What is the reason of why we want this type of things?
I I know why. Tony Robbins talks about the six human needs, and it's to meet our needs. And so we have different vehicles on how we can get those needs met. But society does a great job of saying it's about, money, fame, women, sex appeal, and so like I think that's what's thrown at us a lot of the times, um, and so the need to feel significant comes from how much money you have versus how many people you help and what impact you're doing. The need of certainty is like how much money do I have in my bank account versus, what I know based on my skills, I can go out there and make an impact, right? Like, so there's these needs that we have. We all have them. It's just what vehicles are you using to meet those needs? And a lot of times, money and things like that play a huge role in the measuring stick of that. And unfortunately, that's what society's teaching us. Doesn't mean that's correct. I think there's because at the end of your life, think about it like this. At the end of your life, you're not going to sit there and be like, man, look how much money I have in my account. You're going to say, man, look at all the people around here that are, with me around my deathbed and all the memories that we have, the laughing at the, on trips and stuff like that. That's what you're going to remember. That's what you're going to cherish the most because the money, is pointless. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, love it so much. This is This is really, really amazing. I love it. Like, because, you know, most of the people, like, most of people coming into entrepreneurship because of money, but in the end, it's not about it. Like, for sure, you want some type of better income to be able to live and have things that you want, but you have to, you, the money is like a byproduct, I would say, to how you actually, how many people you could help, you know?
Yeah.
So this is really awesome. I love it so much. And so what was your beliefs? Oh yeah, you mentioned it that your beliefs about money was that it's like uh, it's a pretty much like a vehicle, right? Did that came from your parents or you had to learn it along the way?
No, I learned that along the way. Growing up in a split household, my dad never talked about money, and it was very scarce, although he did his best to make it not feel that way. But you learn that as you get older. My mom very much fostered an ability to a belief system around managing money well, but not creating it. And money was always tight. So I grew up thinking money was difficult to create. But I would always be good at managing it. And so I seen that play out in my early to mid 20s, even up to my late 20s, where I had friends, they would produce 80, 100 grand a month, and but it would all be gone. They'd have nothing to show for it. They'd have all the toys, the cars, everything. And then here I am making like $2,000 a month, and I'm paying my bills and paying down $40,000 in credit card debt, and then saving multiple amounts of money. And so I always that brain belief system that was ingrained in me showed up at them because I was like, I'm not good at producing it, but I'm good at managing it when I have it. But and then no one told me about multiplying it, right? And so those are the three things that you do with money. And so, but I had to work on shifting to say like, I am a great producer of income, right? We just had a $50,000 month last month. I don't say that to impress you guys, but to say that impresses me because I went from barely making $2,000 a month to having, months like that. Now, is every month like that? Absolutely not. That is not entrepreneurship. In fact, entrepreneurship is, you make 50 grand in a month, you don't make anything next month, you make 10 the next month. And so, but to see my evolution, to shift, and it started with my belief system that I am a great producer. I know I'm a great manager or steward of my money. But then over the years, over the last 5 to 10 years, I've been learning how to multiply money. And that's ultimately the goal is where you don't work for money anymore. You have your money work to create more money for you. And
Mm-hmm.
those are two separate, vehicles, but they come with two different mindsets.
Yeah.
And so everything starts in the mind first. So when you shift that belief system, you start to shift the external because you shifted the internal first. And I had to make those shifts, and I didn't have that growing up, but now I do. And the cool thing is, I have two boys, one's 7 and one's about to turn 5 next month, and I'm giving them their inheritance right now, or a component of it, which is I'm teaching them how to think,
Mm-hmm.
telling them every day that money is simple to make, it's easy to produce, it's easy to multiply. You're a great steward, and we teach them the practicals of that too. And so I'm breaking generational curses and belief systems and
Love it.
instilling a new belief moving forward. So
So
yeah.
good, so good, so good. Yeah, I had to learn because my belief about money is very similar to yours, and I had to learn it myself. And the breakdown moment or breakout moment happened when I moved from our country to England,
Mm,
and because I saw my parents struggling so much financially, so I've been like, I have to change the way we are, like, how we operate basically. So I moved myself into England, couldn't speak English and all this, so I learned all like all along the way. But when I get into England, it was everything on me. And I didn't know what the money actually like, how to operate with them, what to do with them. So what I did, I started learning about investments and how to actually, operate with money. My first book that I read was actually what you mentioned, Rich Dad Poor Dad basically, and that was like completely like mind opener about like what's money and what is possible with them and so on. Um, and But my belief about money is that, or the point that I wanted to bring is that without knowing how money works, you won't be able to succeed in life because this is the thing that actually determine if you're going to be successful or not, because even though you can see there are many people that, for example, win a lottery or whatever, but they ending up in even a worse scenario when they've been before they actually got those money. And this is like because they have no financial literacy, right? So it's just insane to see this type of thing that happening. And even though I have to like teach my parents how to operate with money at this, like I'm freaking 28 and I'm teaching people who are 50 like how to operate with money, you know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
just insane.
That's huge, and it just speaks to, your hunger and shifting this area of your life. You came from an environment, and then our environment's so powerful, right? We always hear you're the average of the five people you spend time with, right? But
Ooh,
it's like
yeah.
our family and our friends and our culture even, it's a challenge. And so when you're stuck in like a broke or poverty or a lack or scarcity mindset, how do you get out of it? The way you shift that is by reading books, listening to podcasts like this, hiring coaches and mentors. It's getting around different communities online. Nowadays, it's so simple, but always saturating your mind on a daily basis. And I always like to say, if you feed your brain more than you feed your body, your life will go in an entirely different direction. And so, you reading those books was you were changing from the inside, even though the external didn't change, the inside started to change.
Mm.
And as a result, you're now starting to create the external, and that gives proof to those people around you on how to be able to coach them and guide them around the topic of finances. And so I really honor you, man, for doing the work, putting the time in. And any of you listening that are doing that, you're doing it right now as you listen to this. That's the first step. That's the biggest key to creating change.
Love it. Thank you so much for those kind words. It was just love it so much. Thank you so much. And when you talk about environment, how did you start with changing your environment? Like when you've been at the stage when
Yeah.
like you still been following probably the path of being like employed, and so like the corporate ladder basically type of thing. So how did you actually like, was it the first thing that you start shifting, or how did you actually like, where was the breaking point for you when you realized that this is not the way I should supposed to live?
Yeah, when I got involved in network marketing, I got around my buddy who thought differently to me, and I had to change. He helped to shift the way I thought.
Mm.
And as a result, when I got around him, I thought differently. Um, let me give you guys a quick example. One time we went out to dinner with one of our mentors, that's at a higher level than us, and I was so broke, like very broke. And we went out to this nice fancy dinner, right? And everyone ordered what they wanted, but I knew I had a little bit, I only had like so much money. So I ordered like a salad for like $12 out of this nice restaurant. I didn't order dinner, I didn't order dessert, I didn't have any drinks, and everyone was eating like a king. And when the bill came, he said, "Great, we're all just going to split it evenly." And my heart sank. I had to pay like $150 for a salad. And it was getting around someone that thought bigger. And I know people might be like, man, that's cruel, but no, it's taught me to think like a wealthy, successful person,
Mm.
because and to think in abundance and not scarcity.
Mm.
And I had to have that painful lesson so that something would shift. And so getting around people who think differently than you, think higher than you. I'm in one mastermind where I paid 10 grand a year. I paid 15K for a second mastermind where we meet 4 times with someone who's very influential per year. And again, I don't say that to impress you or drop numbers. First off, I always like to speak numbers because no one used to talk numbers to me. And it was inspiring to me. If I was broke, it was inspiring to get to that level. And if I was at that level, people who are at that level respect you for doing that. And it's not seen as a brag, but it's seen as something great to invest in yourself. But it was getting around people and then just in consuming books, consuming podcasts. You have to flood your brain to think differently because every time you have a thought, this is a geek out moment, you have from each neuron in the brain, there's this piece called myelin. And so it's myelination. And every time you have that thought, it produces another one like a spider web over and over and over until it becomes like a sidewalk, a street, a highway, and that creates your new belief system. And so you got to keep doing that over retuning. your brain. Just like a piano, you can't tune a piano once. You got to do it like every other day for weeks, and then, 2 or 3 times a week for weeks, and then once a week for weeks. So this is like a 6 month process just to tune a piano and keep it tuned. So you got to do the same for yourself. So my coaching clients, the clients that work with me, I tell them there's only one non-negotiable in our coaching, and that is you feed your brain for 30 minutes every day on the topic of whatever your goals are related to.
Mm.
So that's how you need to, that's what I think.
So good, so good. Um, this is um remind me how I actually like start figuring out all the pieces because I didn't have the money at the beginning to invest and so on, especially when I moved to England, having got literally like I've been working like coffee shops and this type of thing because that's how like I had my like college like college degree or whatever what I've been studying in my country, but it doesn't really like count over here. So you are basically here just like an immigrant. So you're just working where you can, and for most of the time for the least amount of money. So the time, like that time, taught me a lot about like how to operate with money and so on to actually like be able to like survive even. But once I get more and more and it made me resourceful at that time, I would say, because I'm proud on the thing that I'm the person that figuring out a lot of things on my own, like so much. Like I don't know who said it, but I think Stephen Larson or somebody there was like when he was like that was the probably the first one funnel away challenge or something that he was shouting about on the people that when you don't know something, Google it and Google it. You have internet connection, so you can freaking Google it. And now, especially with AI and everything, you have like so much stuff on like the tip of your fingers. You can have like literally conversation if you know how to at least little bit work with AI. You can like get so many things like ideas and so much stuff out like just so fast. But what I did was that I started listening like everywhere where I've been like doing something, even in work. Like literally, I put my headphones on and listen, like rich people, like how they think, how they talk, what they do, like everything, what they been, podcasts and so on, and even books, listening like so many different, like I'm telling you, I've been obsessing about that, like I would say 2 years. And it completely changed the way I've been like thinking and so on. It was so amazing and so incredible journey, because like I've been changing that so fast that the other people around me didn't like couldn't even recognize me how fast it was. My girlfriend, I had so much problems with like I don't know if you experience that or if you saw like other people, but we as entrepreneurs are really bad in relationships kind of thing. Like we are working so hard or like we are not looking around, we are just like super focused, or I don't know if it's even focused, but we are not focusing on on our relationship that much, and I've been guilty of that. So we had like really bad time at that, like when I've been shifting so fast. She was still in the same spot where we like how we met, and that we had to literally I had to reintroduce with her like so many times, like I'm a different person today, like you know what I mean. Yeah, it's just so it was really great journey, and how this type of things like connected us even more together, like the relationship gets stronger over time, because now we are 8 years together basically. So it's just, yeah, so I'm so proud of her and how she handled all of that. um but yeah, totally. But anyway, the point was, yeah, it can be as simple as like listening podcasts to brainwash your head, like the way how you've been like rewire your brain. So it's just awesome. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, when did you like? Because I remember from your journey, from your story, when you finish school, you start traveling, or you join army or something.
Yeah, when I graduated high school, I joined the United States Marine Corps, and I
Mm,
was deployed all around the world and multiple times. And so, yeah, that was fun.
yeah, yeah. So how that shifted who you became?
I went through a lot of ups and downs, but
Mm,
I learned I learned tough to be tough. I learned, and I don't mean just physically tough. I mean mentally tough,
mhm,
disciplined,
mm,
and emotionally tough. You see and do things that you never thought you would do and foresee, and but it's helped me learn to be organized, to be disciplined, to be excellent. The one thing, the Marine Corps is different than the Army and the Navy and the Coast Guard and Air Force and all here in the U.S. is that we do things with excellence. That's like even from our uniform, the way we measure, cleaning our barracks room, it's like everything's excellent. So those qualities come into business, right? Being organized, being disciplined to get things done, doing things with the right way. So, I always tell my boys, I taught them the definition of integrity, doing the right thing even when no one's looking, right? So those things, especially as an entrepreneur, no one's looking at you, right? No one's looking. It's just you, at least in the beginning,
yeah.
right? And so are you disciplined enough? Do you have integrity to do the right thing? And so those qualities were able to bring, I was able to bring in entrepreneurship to really help me kind of lay a solid foundation and then learn and grow from there. So yeah.
Mm, mm. Do you think that you are still having some of those values from there, like implemented in your life and like how you operate now?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Like we teach our kids to put our house to bed. What I mean by that is everything has a spot. It's clean. If someone was to come over at 2 in the morning because they needed something happen, they wouldn't walk into a pigsty. It's clean. It's everything has its spot. It feels good, right? When we say we're gonna do things, in our house, we like to execute on them. I still, Marine Corps, we worked out all the time, and I still work out every day, pretty much, right? So those qualities have infiltrated every area of my life. I don't think it's like a on-off switch. I think it's something that is, I call it a harmony. You're always swaying back and forth, but it's infiltrated every
Hmm.
area of our life, my marriage, right? Um, so yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Love it. Love it. You know, I saw some like lots of people actually, not as many, but for example, Steven Larson, I would say he was also in there, and he it shifted his like how he believed in himself, and I would say that this is like one of the really huge pieces in like being confident enough, because when you're starting a business, it's not even like you're not like selling kind of this, especially what I can see, especially in services, you are not even selling like the solution that much. You are selling the certainty in you that you can actually deliver, and the certainty has to be there. The way that how you show up determine how you going to if you're going to be successful or not.
Yeah. First I'll back up. Stephen Larson, he and his wife Marley or fiance Marley, right? They live like 2 minutes away from me.
Wow.
They go to our church. We've hung out at the pool. We might go to their wedding. So great guy. Him and Marley, they are brilliant in what they do. They know exactly what they're doing. If anyone ever works with them, they're blessed. They know how to help people. But with that being said, it's like, yeah, it's like, for me, I look at it as like, Tony Robbins always says, when two people meet, the one whoever's most certain is the one who usually wins. And so confidence is your ability to get someone from point A to point B. And even though you're not always 100% responsible, depending on the situation, because you have to do the work, right? Like your coach or your mentor or whoever, they can't do the work for you. That would be like asking your personal trainer to do the bench press for you. They're going to get stronger, not you. So, but also confidence, certainty comes from action.
Mm,
Alex Ramosi talks about it all the time. If you want to
mm,
be more confident, do the thing more than anyone else. You'll get confident at it, right? I remember when I was in seventh grade, I walked into the gym, the weight room, never being in a weight room before, and I was intimidated. I was scared. And now, look, I'm not the most buffest guy in the world. I'm not a bodybuilder, but I could go walking in a gym with Arnold Schwarzenegger and feel confident. Why? Because I've done it so much and I know what I'm doing. So the more repetition that you have, the more confident you become. So for those of you that are lacking confidence, or you're like starting a business, go do it a million times. Go get free clients and do it with them and refine your skills and your process and your systems and get better results with them. And then once you feel like I really know I can do this, then start charging people for it. So yeah, confidence is just comes from that massive action.
Totally. Love it. I can see, like the way you showing up. I can feel the confidence, and people can feel it also. How like this is what really like you have to build the confidence, because it's like I'm just want to emphasize how big piece this is, I would say, because this is like it's really important to, and especially when you are at the beginning stages. um like like showing up confidently is will really like determine if you are successful or not. And also like capability of selling and so on, but that's all playing all together, right? Anyway, from there, you mentioned abundance and scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
How you, even these days, do you still having some type of moments that you are like operating in the scarcity uh, instead of the abundance, and how you like leading that, or trying to manage your feelings and the way you behave?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to hit a couple avenues here. So, if you grew up with a lack or a scarcity mindset, you got to flood your brain around it. But the other strategy that I love and that I do is I have to visualize. You have
Mm-hmm.
to see it in the mind first before, right? You got to live there first before, and marry that with the action, taking the action of the skill over and over. You can't just sit in your head and think abundance. And the movie, The Secret is great, but you're missing 80% of it, which is taking the action, right? So there's a combination of both in that, the practical and the visual. So that's how you can start. But there are steps to take. And so I very much was very scarcity. Why? Because I grew up in scarcity. I joined the Marine Corps. I had no money. I was in $40,000 debt for the third time. So I like to think I'm an overachiever. I don't have to do it once or twice. I got to do it three times, right? And so, and for years, I had to say no to going out with people, going to trips, going to dinner, because I was putting all my money to debt. But the reason why I was in debt, because of the way I thought. So I had to get around people, listen to books, listen to mentors, community podcasts. So you start to shift everything into mind first. But then there is a practical application, because you could start making money and have money, but still have a scarcity mindset, even if you
Mm-hmm.
have an abundance of physical money, right? That's why what happens is you said this for people who win the lottery. I usually draw a triangle and I share what I call the four levels of the 4S pyramid, which teaches your financial levels. And what happens is at the bottom, we have what's called the survival, and at the top, it's significance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens to a lot of people is when the lotteries, they get this significant amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
but they still have the survival mindset. So the pyramid is actually upside down. And that's why they lose it all, is because all the money is the heavy part up top, and the scarcity mind or at the bottom, and the mindset's so heavy in scarcity that they fall and it breaks. And that's why they lose it all. And studies show that you actually go more in debt than before you win the lottery. So, but one thing that I've done, even though, I've had moments where I've had money in the bank and I was like still in my scarcity mindset, as a quick example was a couple years ago, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, my wife she had this idea that we would, every New Year, she wanted to spend it in a different part of the world, all right? Experience New Year's in a new part. So she's like, let's go to Hawaii, which we love to do. We go to Hawaii every January to get out of the cold here in Idaho. But for those that know the Better Life podcast with Brandon Turner, a friend of mine, and we went to Hawaii and in December. We stayed at his Airbnb, but his property manager is like, hey, on New Year's Day, we have someone already booked, so you would have to get a hotel. Well, it's New Year, so it's going to be packed and it's going to be hard. So I told my wife, I was like, hey, go find a hotel for that last day on the island in Maui, wherever. She finds this hotel. She shows me. She's like, it's amazing. It's got a kitchen and three pools, and it's just beautiful. I was like, cool, let's book it. And she's like, how much is? I was like, how much is it? She's like, it's $2,000 for the night
Mm.
plus tax. I was like, no, absolutely not. That is stupid. I would never pay that much. And I had to catch myself because I was like, man, like that's scarcity thinking. I said, what would someone who's in abundance do? And because the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life, right? And so
Yep.
I started to ask this question. I said, what would the abundant part of me do? I said, if I ever wanted a $2,000 a night hotel to be pennies for me, I have to, and this is my analogy I love, I had to stretch my financial rubber band in my mind because once you stretch a rubber band, it never goes back to its original size. So I had to say, if I ever want this to be easy for me, I need to do it in my mind first before I do it in the natural. So I was like, all right, I'm spending $2,000 plus for one night. And we did. And it was epic. And ironically, we don't go during New Year's anymore because it was just horrible flying and traveling. But we go every year to that same hotel because it's so fun. We brought a friend, some family friends of ours, friends that are like family, should I say, with us last year. And now this year, coming up at the end of January, we're going. And guess what? We have like five families coming to this resort with us. And so here's what I could say as a result of that, I caught the scarcity. I stepped into the abundant mindset. I followed through because now it goes from mental to physical, right? Like you actually have that physical, visceral experience. And what that mindset shift has done is it's also moving down the line. It's blessed many other families coming up this year
Mhm.
because of the shift in thinking that me and my wife made.
Mhm.
Otherwise, no one would be having this experience with us. And
Mhm.
so you have to see it in the mind first, play it out in life. That doesn't mean be stupid though financially. Like you have $10,000 in the bank and you go buy a $50,000 car and put 10 grand down as a down payment. I don't advise it. People have done it and they've succeeded. But for the common average person, you have to see it in your mind first, walk it out with intelligence, with wisdom. So, yeah, hope
Mhm.
that helps.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You know, to that, I would just add one thing. Myron Golden would say, make more offer. When you have that,
Yes.
like, do you want to go for this type of, you know, holidays or whatever? Like, it's $10,000, whatever, like, per night or $2,000 per night. Okay, make a offer that's going to like pay that, and when you're creating the offer is going to pay even more than bring you more money than that, and you can affect more people and so on. Um, yeah. Anyway, this is just
Oh
a
no, you're so spot on. And one of the things that's happening is for me, and that align with what you said, is we're going to be creating our financial freedom mastermind where we teach families how to create financial freedom. And one of the things we're going to do is a couple like anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year, we're going to do a live event in person. People can network, share thoughts, get taught on high level strategies and help them financially. But the thing for us, me and my wife and our family is the event will pay for our entire trip. So wherever we want to go in the world is where we're going to host that event. And
ooh,
so it'll be a
love it,
free trip
love
for
it.
us and our
Yeah,
families. And it'll add massive value to everyone and
yeah,
create so cool relationships. So it's going to be a win for everyone. So
totally,
that
love
that
it.
came up.
So good. Yeah. All right. So from there. Oh, by the way, I have one more question. I have a question to that story that you like when you've been on you have no money, right? Or you had the money only for the food that you could afford. How did you how did you figure out to pay equal split for every like with everybody on around the table? What did you do?
I mean, what my strategy at the time was I had a credit card
Okay.
that had a big limit. So what I told my buddy, I was like, hey, let me pay for it on my credit card. Give me all the cash that you collected, and then I'll go deposit in my bank and pay off the credit card. And then whatever I owed, I would be able to pay over time. So that helped. But I'm telling you, there was points in my life when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was broke, so broke. I had to give plasma sitting next to a homeless guy that was giving plasma for $100,
Wow.
you know? And so I would do that like I think once every 2 weeks or whatever the frequency say that they said you could do it. So there was some tough times, and but God's always came through for me. So, but
Mm,
yeah. So anyway,
yeah, yeah, I love it. You know, with the piece with the God, like that piece with God, I love to talk about this. I think I'm going to create another type of series or something like um I'm thinking about it because lots of people that I'm interviewing are Christians. Are you Christian? Yeah. Okay. So, and I am super fascinated. I've been raised and I grew up in the environment of like church and so on, like Jesus Christ and so these type of things. But I didn't really understand what is actually like what is the truth and so on. Like I've been confused by that because nobody gave me like clear definition of this and so on. So I really like and when I'm going more, like when I started to being in an I get back to this. I don't know why. It just led me there, and I think it's because of the environment, also because I'm studying Myron a lot. So it just came up back to me, and I would love to really go super deep about like you know uh, about that whole piece, Christianity and God and all of that. But anyway, I would. What is your definition of like how you feel about God? What does it mean to you? How did it affected your life? And like, what is have you been raised the way like believing God already, or you just accepted it along the way?
yeah, I'll try to answer this in 60 seconds. I grew up Catholic, never had to go to communion, confirmation, or church. When I got in the Marine Corps, my grandfather was like, go get that stuff. So I tried, went with the chaplain for 6 months. We're doing this program. And then he deployed. And then I had to wait 6 months for a chaplain to come in. And he finally comes in. He's like, no, we're going to change it up. So we started a new way. And then I deployed. And then when I came back, I had like a month or two left. And I was like, I'm going to San Diego. Forget all this God stuff. I'll worry about God later. But when I got involved in network marketing, they said there's this conference in Las Vegas. So I was like, all right, I'm going. All these wealthy guys in the business. And then they said on Saturday night, they're like, hey, if you want to know what really makes us successful, come out on Sunday morning. We'll open the doors early, an hour early. So I went and they started talking about, how God, how Jesus has, been the rock of everything in their life. And so
Mhm.
they did an altar call, said, if you want to give your life. And I was the first, me and my buddy were the first ones to walk up there and give our lives to Christ. And so going through, I started learning, and my wife and I, we help co-lead a business ministry at our church. We believe God doesn't call you just to be a missionary. The great Billy Graham says the next revival is going to be in the marketplace and business. And so we're starting to see so many Christian entrepreneurs rising up. And so, there's this one pastor who says, I love what he says. He says the material possessions are not a sign of God's blessing unless they are.
Mhm.
Because Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, they all were blessed in the Bible.
Mhm.
They all have more than enough. Think about this. When the three wise men came when Jesus was born and they brought frankincense, myrrh, and
Yep.
I forget the other one. That was in that day, those were royal gifts. Those were hundreds of thousands of dollars worth, right? So from day one, Jesus was wealthy. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not promoting Jesus and the name it and claim it type Bible, but I do believe abundance is our right because it says in 3rd John 2 that you shall prosper and it says, I wish that you would all prosper and be in good health as your soul prospers. So as we
Mhm.
mature in our spirit, man, we're supposed to be healthy and prosperous in all areas. That means financially, in our marriages, well, our mental and emotional, like friendships. It's because we want to create a relationship with God, but we're also meant to have a relationship with people,
Yeah.
right? And so these are all things that are overlooked in the Bible. And God even says, the only place in the Bible, tithing, test me in this. Bring your tithes into the storehouse and test me in this if I will not open the windows of heaven, pour out so much blessing in your storehouse, right? And so there's so many scriptures that support it. But here's the thing, I'll end on this. We don't want to fall victim to the spirit of mammon, right? Which is the spirit of money and worshiping
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
It says in the Bible you can worship one of two masters. You can either worship God or you can worship money. You can't worship both. But God has zero problem with you having money. But what he does have a problem with is money having you.
Mm.
And if you
Yeah.
make money your idol, you're putting that above God, and God is a jealous God. He wants you to be, in a loving way, he wants to be the God of your life. And so there's so, the enemy has a budget, God has abundance.
Mm-hmm. That's
He's
so awesome.
there's no 30-year
Love it.
mortgages on the mansion in heaven,
Yep.
right? There, the streets are paved in gold. You're not getting loans in heaven. God's the creator of it all, the heavens and the earth. Everything in this is his. He's the owner of the cattle on 1,000 hills. I mean, come on. There's so much references to God's abundant nature. And if he
Mhm.
loves you, and I know you don't have kids, do you?
No, not yet. No.
For all of you listening to have kids, I have kids. And when my kids do, like, if I see my son, like, I give him some money to go buy something, and he's like, well, I want to share this with my brother. As
Mm.
a father, a loving dad, I see him give, I want to give him more, because I can trust him. See, God can love you, but but he can love you, but he doesn't have to trust you. He wants to, right? Like, I love my son, my 7-year-old, but I don't trust him to stay home alone with his brother. No way. So can God trust you? Because it says where your treasure is where your heart is. And so if you can't, and everyone's belief system is different, but I believe the kingdom of God is based on principles and laws. And I think tithing is a law, whether the New Testament supports it or not. There is reference of it, but people overlook it. But we teach our kids this ditty. When you get money, you give, and we give our 10% first to God because it's his and he asked for it. Give, invest in your future, like Myron talks about, and then spend the rest. Go enjoy whatever you got left. But I feel like I can do more with 90% of the money and 10% of God than I can with 100% of my money. And
Love
so
it.
you
Wow.
start doing that. I've
Love
seen
it.
that shift. And I'll give you, and I know I'm rambling here, but I remember when I was broke in San Diego, I was telling you 2 grand, 2 grand a month or less. Actually, there was one point I had no money coming in, 40 grand in debt. I told my friend, my roommate, one of my good friends, I said, it was a Friday night. We couldn't go out anywhere. We had no money. I said, bro, something needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what we're doing isn't working. I was like, let's commit to tithing no matter what. If that means we miss our car payment, we don't eat, like, let's commit. And I meant it in my heart. And in fact, I never missed a tithe since that day. And that was like 2010 or 11, somewhere around there. I've never not tithe. And I'm not kidding. The next day we lived in San Diego. So we went for a beach run because that's free. So I'm getting ready to put my phone in the car, and I get a text message that says, check your bank account. And I looked in my bank, and there was $3,000 deposited in my account that I wrote off years ago that someone repaid me out of the blue. How is that a coincidence, or is that a move of God who knew my heart? Because it says in First Corinthians, I was just reading this morning, like, God cares about the motives of the heart, not what you say, not what you do. What's the motive of your
Love it.
heart? And so I don't give to God. It says to be a cheerful giver when you give to God. I know there's times where money's tight and I get money and I'm like, oh, I got to give 10% to God. And I don't feel cheerful. So guess what I do? I get it. I submit it online, but right before I click the submit button to tithe, I worship until I feel cheerful. And I don't give until I feel cheerful. Why? Because the Bible says be a cheerful giver, not a reluctant giver. So I have to do those things. So there's so much in the Bible that's laced with abundance, right? Like, why would the heaven be paved in gold? Why are there mansions and not single family homes or condos in heaven? Like, everyone gets a mansion. So it's like there's so much biblical truth around the abundance of God. But if you think God is a cheap God, he's not an abundant God, or it's just reserved for heaven and not heaven on earth. It's like, well, why does the Lord's Prayer say, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, that means we want heaven to come to earth. And if heaven is abundant, well, then we should be abundant here. And if we're not walking in abundance, we're not in line with God. It's God's word. And so we need to work. Now, does that mean we're all meant to be millionaires? No. What that means is that we have a purpose here on earth, and we will be rewarded with our great stewardship with the proportion of finances based on your purpose. So if you're meant to be a school teacher, you're probably not going to be a billionaire, but he can provide above and beyond, a teacher's salary. And so anyway, I can go on, but that's what pours out of me as we talk about this topic.
Love it. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I'm probably going to post some quote about this because this is amazing. I will tag you, don't worry. Awesome.
Yes.
Love it so much. Yeah, this is insane. Well, dude, we're gonna have a chat about this type of thing. If you would be down, I would love to have you actually on that
Yeah.
on that other series that we're gonna have anyway. Um, all right. So now, like, from your, I don't know, do you still have your time or yeah, you're
Mhm.
right. Okay. Um, from being in Marines, how it happened that you jump into a uh coaching and so on, like what was the whole vision of it, or what did like have you like always wanted to be some type of coach, or was it like something that actually God provided you along the way, like
Yeah.
shifted you the way?
Good question. So when I got out of the Marines, I met my buddy. He got me an Amway, taught me, helped shift the way I think. And I learned that if I help other people, I'll get what you want. Just like Jim Rohn says, the more you help someone else, the more you get.
Mm-hmm.
But I was tired of like babysitting people. And
Mm-hmm.
I was the Marines paid me to go to school. That's how I survived. And I was finishing up my bachelor's degree. And I was like, oh man, I need to figure something out. And I figured I can go get my master's and I'd only have a little bit of time left. And I honestly, by the grace of God, like he opened the door to going to Jarek Robbins' birthday party and meeting his buddy and getting me into coaching. And it was such a thin line because I was like, all right, I gotta go be a consultant and get a career. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I guess I gotta start using my bachelor's degree as a consultant. And I was like, I don't want to do that. But I got to start my master's degrees right when I started um, becoming a coach, and I found that I loved helping people. I loved coaching people along the on this way, and I wanted to do it more on a professional level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what kind of got me into coaching, and then as I started learning and helping people break through and create better results in their life, I got addicted to it, and I was just like at Tony Robbins, I was like, give me more clients, and I was learning faster than I would have if I was on my own because
Well, I see the numbers, like,
yeah, I
dude.
had 100 clients at one point, like 100 people I was coaching 2 to 3 times a month. And for 30-minute calls, that's a lot. So I got a lot of muscle built because of that. And so it's just it wasn't something, it was a door that God opened. And now he's opening the next door. He's opened the door into investing, but now he's opening the door to real estate and coaching people and helping them become financially free. So it says in the Bible that you're supposed to go from glory to glory. It doesn't mean there's not challenges in between those glories,
Mhm.
but it's like God's opening these doors. And I never thought about being a coach. I I honestly it was just him opening door after door and then working on my heart along the way. The biggest thing you could do in your life isn't just feed this, is you correct this. You correct your
Mhm.
heart. Everything flows. It says the Bible, every life flows from the heart, right? And so you want to work on this more than this, but when you work on both, because it says renew your mind, that's not something God could do. It's he told us to do that. So when we put that together and work on your heart, it's like that's where you see the acceleration like you're going through. So I hope that it helps.
Totally, totally, dude. Love it so much. It is just, this is insane. What mean to you helping? Like, what does it mean to you helping people?
I I I don't know. I don't know the best way to answer that. I would say it's fulfilling to
Mm-hmm.
hear people say, "Wow, you changed my life."
Mm-hmm.
Um, wow, I never thought of it like that. Or, I'm so happy. Like hearing those things is more rewarding than the money. Don't get me wrong, I want both. And so, but it's like you're not paying me to do this, but I get to pour out to you, to your audience. And so it's just that's the fulfilling part. I always used to tell people you don't go to Tony Robbins as a coach for finances, you go for fulfillment because you got paid very little. Now, fortunately, I get to have finances and fulfillment, but the fulfillment is what is the ultimate reward. Um, so I think that's what coaching does for me. And look, I could be worth billions. I'm still going to do stuff like this because I feel like this is what God's called me to do and to help other people and to be a blessing. And I feel like, as the Bible said, we get certain gifts. I feel like my gift is a teacher and an encourager. So I'll do it for free and I'll do it for money because God, this is what I think. If you can, it says in the parable of the 3 talents, two went and multiplied their money and one buried it. and the one that buried it got rebuked, right? And called a wicked servant. And so we're called to steward what we have in our hand or who we have in our hand, because the most precious thing to God is people. Can you steward people well? And can you multiply? And we're called to be disciples. That's why, um, Jesus called his disciples to be fishermen of men, right?
Mhm.
So we're called to multiply and disciple, but are you stewarding what you have well? And that's where I'm at. I want to always steward people well, leave them better than I found them. That's a spirit of excellence. Um, and so to me, that's just kind of how I show up. I want to be able to steward well, multiple. That's the season I'm in right now, stewarding what I have in my hand. Because if you get steward with little, you can steward with much. So you can't get promoted into the next season of life until you steward what you had so well. Otherwise, you're going to circle around the mountain again and have to go through it again.
Yeah, I just love how you combine success and God assignment of yours together. It's like it's so inspiring and so good. I love it so much. Uh, I have a few last questions for you. Uh, if somebody would watch your like how you live your life without hearing your voice, what would they see that you value the most?
And that's tough because I feel like my goal is to increase all areas. If the mute button was on in my life, you would see me going to the gym pretty much every day, eating healthy every day. You would see me playing with my kids and teaching them and pouring in, wrestling, having fun. You'd see me honoring my wife, loving my wife. You'd see me stewarding my house and my rental properties while my clients would be served above and beyond. You'd see me serving at my church, multifacets. So you see me just encouraging people. So it's hard to just say one because, um, and oh, you would see me working on my faith, my heart, and working on cleaning my heart to be righteous and holy, which I'll never achieve till heaven. But here it's only by His blood. But that's what you would see, man. Like honestly, because I'm not a I'm not I get a lot of clients that come in and they're so focused on business, their marriage falls apart, their health falls apart. I just made a reel or a YouTube story coming or excuse me, an Instagram story on my social yesterday. I'm driving back from the gym. I'm like, people say, "Oh, I die for my kids." Well, great. Would you hug your kids or excuse me, would you go to the gym and eat healthy for your kids? If you're willing to die, would you be willing to do those things? Where, I see so many people out of shape because they're so focused on building their business. If you were to pass away, your wife and kids are not going to hug their money. They're going to want to hug you, right? So again, what's your measuring stick of success? How are you, where's your vertical alignment? God, family, business. Most people it's business, family, God. And it's like you get, I'll say this. It says in the Bible, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and all these things, money, relationships, health, all these things will be added to you. So that's why I wake up every morning and the first thing I do is go to the word of God, because just like tithing my first 10%, I want to tithe the first 10% of my day in his word to seek his face, to worship and pray to him. Because I'm telling you, I've seen so many miracles, God coming through, showing up in business, even this last month. And I'm walking through a season right now since January. My wife, we had a six-figure passive income go away over this last year. And my wife had a coaching gig for a startup company for 2 years. That contract had ended. That was a high five-figure month income. So we lost over $250,000 in income over this last year. And so since January, I started to really trust God as my provider instead of Joe as a provider. My whole life, I was like, oh, I can do this. And I produce and things would happen and I'd make things happen. But it wasn't until the last like 5 months that I'm like, no, you, God, are my provider. I'm trusting you. You said in your word that look at how he feeds the ravens and how much more does he care about us than the ravens. And so we're made in his image. So he cares so much about us. So many people have a skewed vision of their heavenly father because of the way their earthly father showed up. And I get that. You have to work on that. But I just, I've learned to trust him. And as I said earlier, as a result of that, I got asked to do a mastermind call. 5 people signed up. We made over 50 grand, all because I trusted him. And and I'm still walking this out. It's the enemy still whispering in, you're gonna lose money, or you don't have enough, or what about this bill, and oh, what's gonna happen in the future? The enemy wants to play off your past and the unknown in the future. And God doesn't call us. It says, give no thought to tomorrow. It says, be today. That doesn't mean don't plan, because it says um, you're called to leave an inheritance to your children's children. You got to plan for the future, but you don't live in the future. You plan for today. Trust Him for today. And so, yeah, walking that out.
Totally. So good. Um, so where are you heading actually now? Like, what is your vision into the future?
In business or in life?
Business, life? Yep.
Our goal right now for this season, I feel like God's called us into is, to create our mastermind, and we want to help 1,000 families create financial freedom. That's our starting point. And then whatever God calls us to do from there, we want to be obedient. We're to it all, but we want to help people create financial freedom. Yes, we're going to make a lot of money doing that. They're going to make a lot of money doing that too, right? But that's the kingdom. And so, on that, we're going to continue to invest in properties, increase our cash flow. But in life, I want my boys to they actually helped us our last project last year. I rehabbed the property so I can get content for social media. But they helped. They came in, they helped knock out some walls, cut some drywall with me, hammer some things in. So, but I want them as they get older to learn real estate and to work in the family business with us. I want them to have a $3,000 to $5,000 a month passive income before they're 18 years old,
Mm-hmm.
so that they're ahead of the game. And so, in life, I want to help as many people as we can. I want our kids to grow up, do business with us. I hope that they live in the same town as us. I'd love to have a family compound, where they get married and have kids and we're all together. But if not, we'll be in a position where we can, if they're in Florida and one's in California, we can have a house in both and fly back and forth and travel. We love traveling, so travel with our kids till they're on their own, and just be able to inspire people to come to Christ and to see His goodness and to change. He took a selfish, insecure little boy, and I say little boy, to like 23 to 25, um, and changed him into a prosperous, loving, heartfelt man, that honors his wife, honors other people in his life, takes care of his kids, and has a heart to help other people. I couldn't have done that on my own. And then also the great people in my church and mentors and coaches I have help play a role. So the goal is to be very financially successful, but be more righteous and holy than any of it, and to help people come to Christ, get their finances in order, get freedom, and do it with our family and friends.
So good.
That's really it.
So good. Love it. So I will end up with this one last question for you. If this would be your last interview you would ever done, what would be the message that you would love to leave behind you for others?
Well, I mean, the obvious one now that we're talking about is accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. He died on a cross for you and your sins, and rose from the dead and seated at the right hand of God, so that His blood is the only thing that can wash your sins away from the perfect God. So if you get a choice to spend eternity here or in hell, and I don't say hell as a negative thing, I say it's just, hell is the absence of God, right? Just like night is the absence of light, a day. And so you spend eternity with Him. That would be my biggest thing. But if I'm talking just from an earthly thing, I would say, um, get your finances right, get that handled, and get it out of the way, so that you can focus. And you can do this while making money and in the process, but so that you can be able to serve other people. Like, we're called to serve other people. People, again, have a relationship with God, but you are also, as the cross says, you're supposed to have this horizontal relationship with people. So do life with people, help people, serve people. That's what it's all about. And I'll tell you, if you have a great group of friends and people that you can serve and not take offense. I have this bracelet that says unoffendable. If you can not take offense, you can work on your heart and have great relationships, you are the richest person in the world. And if you have a family that loves you and you love them, you are so rich. So go get rich, because I always tell people, I know so many people who are so broke, all they have is money. And it's like, ugh. And so money's meant to be a tool. It's not to be worshipped. So get it out of the way, go serve people so you have the time and money. And I'll end with this. I know I keep going, but
No,
my
totally.
in December 19th, my dad passed away from cancer. He had stage 4 prostate cancer. He battled for 4 or 5 years. And um, he called me the week before he passed and said, "Hey, I don't have much time left." And my heart sank, and I was at the gym. And so the next day, we were on a plane back to the East Coast, 4 tickets to say our goodbyes. That was 5 grand just to do that. He passed that week, a week later, December 19th. On December 26th, I had to be there with family for my kids and Christmas. I flew back, and then my wife flew in the next day. We had to fly my mother-in-law out to watch our kids, and I had to pay for his entire funeral. He had no assets. He rented a house. He had, 59 years worth of stuff I had to get rid of in that house and give it back to the landlord. And I had to cover all that. It was over a $20,000 bill within one to 2 weeks. And so I always tell people at some point in your life, someone you love or care about is going to need either A, your time, or B, your money, or C, both. And are you in a position to be there for them? And if not, something needs to change. So that comes back to my whole messaging. Get money out of the way so you can handle those moments. Focus on making an impact. Focus on serving. Focus on loving people, and you'll be the richest person in the world.
Thank you so much, man. This was just so powerful. I love it so much. You're just an amazing person, dude. Um, where people can find you to support you, work with you.
Yeah, the number one spot I'd say is Instagram at the Joe Moffett. You can check out our website, masterlifebydesign.com. We have our YouTube channel, Master Life by Design. I'm on TikTok as Joe Moffett. I'm on Facebook as Joe Moffett. But Instagram's probably the best one to find me and reach out to me on there.
Awesome. All right. And for everybody who's listening, if there's something in you, don't ignore it. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe, leave a review. And remember, you weren't born to follow the script. You were born to be free. Bye, everybody.